The story begins with a teaching by the Buddha, who always emphasized the power of words and the importance of silence in life. The Buddha taught that words could be a sharp weapon, helping us achieve many things, but if not used correctly, they could become a weakness. A word spoken at the wrong time can cause harm, but knowing when and how to speak can bring immense benefit. One day, a wealthy, renowned, and powerful king sought out a famous monk who lived in solitude in a tranquil forest. The king expressed his anxiety about his restless mind, despite having everything one could wish for: wealth, fame, and power. However, deep inside, his unease and worries never ceased. He felt that, despite having everything outwardly, he was missing something essential. The monk listened to the king's concerns, remained silent for a moment, and then made an unexpected suggestion. Stay at my monastery for 15 days, live as an ordinary person in silence. During this time, you must remain silent and speak only when absolutely necessary. Live simply, avoiding distractions and indulgences. The king, though apprehensive, decided to accept the challenge, as he was genuinely seeking answers. On the first day, the king felt very uncomfortable. His mind remained restless, surrounded by questions and thoughts. He wanted to talk, to ask, but he restrained himself and stayed silent. The distractions and worries in his mind seemed inescapable. However, by the end of the first day, something strange happened. Though thoughts still lingered, the king felt a gentle sense of peace beginning to fill his soul. This feeling surprised him, and he could not explain why he felt this way. The following day, the king began to notice the wonders of nature around him. He observed the trees, the flowers, the birds flying in the sky. All these things, which he had never truly paid attention to before, now seemed beautiful and calming. The king gradually felt a connection between himself and the natural world, a peace that could only be found in silence. As the days passed, he realized that his anxiety was diminishing. By the final day, the king approached the monk to share his feelings. He said, "Master, I now understand why my mind was always restless. Previously, I spoke too much and harbored negative thoughts about others. Idle conversations and negative thoughts had unsettled my mind. But after these 15 days of silence, I have found peace within my soul. I realize that silence not only brings tranquility, but also helps me live a more meaningful life." The monk smiled and shared that it wasn't just the king but many people in today's world who face the same problem. They talk too much, think excessively, and often get caught up in unnecessary arguments. Silence, according to the monk, is not only a tool for calming the mind, but also the first step in the journey of self-discovery. The monk recounted that the Buddha often remained silent because silence is the key to understanding oneself, to listening deeply, and to finding inner peace. The monk further explained, "When you know when to be silent and when to speak, you will realize that most of our words are unnecessary and sometimes even harmful. Silence helps reduce conflicts and brings clarity to our thoughts." After the monk shared profound philosophical insights, the king sat silently for a moment, seemingly reflecting on what he had just heard. He felt a change within himself, an unparalleled sense of peace. The king thought about the past years, the noisy and stressful life of the court. A profound question arose in his mind. Why had he not realized the importance of silence earlier? Why had he not paused to listen to himself instead of rushing through life? The monk, understanding the king's inner struggle, continued to explain, "Silence does not merely mean stopping speech. It is a state in which we learn to listen to ourselves and the world around us without being clouded by the noise of thoughts and words. When our minds are cluttered, we cannot perceive the beauty and the valuable lessons surrounding us." The king now clearly understood that silence was not merely a tool to reduce stress, but a means to deeply connect with himself and the natural world. He recalled the moments during the past 15 days when he sat quietly in nature, observing the flowers, listening to the birds, and feeling the breeze. Each of those moments gave him a sense of unity with the universe, as if all his worries and conflicts were melting away. This story is not just a message about silence, but also a reminder that we sometimes need to pause, listen, and reevaluate our lives. For those who feel swept up in the fast-paced, chaotic life, this story serves as an invitation to seek stillness, from which they can rediscover balance and peace. The monk then shared another story, a specific example of a disciple of the Buddha who once asked him why he often remained silent. The Buddha replied, "Silence is how I learn about myself, how I listen to what is happening within me. In silence, I can understand myself more deeply and see what I truly need." This answer made the disciple realize that silence was not avoidance or weakness but a powerful act, a tool that helps each person find their inner strength and clarity. The king later returned to his kingdom, carrying the valuable lessons he had learned from the monk. He not only transformed his way of living, but also implemented what he had learned to improve the lives of everyone in his realm. He began organizing periods of silence in the palace, encouraging officials, warriors, and citizens to dedicate time each day to sit quietly, reflect, and reconnect with themselves. Gradually, conflicts in the court diminished, and people became more patient and understanding. Peace and harmony began to spread throughout the kingdom. Sometime later, when the king revisited the monk, he had changed significantly. No longer impulsive, anxious, or restless, he had become a wise leader who listened and paid attention to his own heart and the well-being of his community. He felt that his life had become more meaningful and fulfilling. The monk smiled as he listened to the king's stories. He said, "When you learn the art of silence, you not only find peace for yourself but also inspire others with that peace. Silence helps you connect with yourself, and from there, you can connect with others through meaningful and sincere words." After the king returned to his kingdom and applied the valuable lessons he had learned, the changes in his life gradually spread, not only within the royal court but throughout the entire kingdom. Arguments and strained relationships within the palace noticeably diminished. The courtiers and officials began to learn to appreciate silence, understanding that silence is not avoidance but an opportunity to regain inner balance. One day, while the king was strolling in the palace garden, he encountered a young general who often made hasty and thoughtless decisions. This general was hot-tempered and frequently acted on emotions, which sometimes led to mistakes. The king decided to share his story with the young general, hoping he would recognize the value of silence in critical situations. The king invited the general to sit beside him and recounted his journey. "In the past, I was just like you, always feeling the need to act immediately, to speak out everything on my mind. But then I realized that sometimes, silence is the best answer. When our minds are too distracted and full of conflicting thoughts, if we don't pause, we cannot see the problem clearly." The general listened and felt the sincerity in the king's words. He had witnessed how his impulsive decisions had led to failures in battles and conflicts in life. The general began to reflect on what the king shared and realized that silence, patience, and self-reflection could help him make wiser decisions. The story of silence not only impacted the young general, but also influenced the entire kingdom. The king began hosting weekly meditation sessions in the palace, where courtiers, warriors, and citizens could participate and learn how to find inner peace through silence. These sessions helped everyone in the kingdom reconnect with themselves, ease mental tensions, and learn to listen to others genuinely. Gradually, the king's kingdom became peaceful and prosperous. The people no longer quarreled as before, but instead cultivated understanding and respect for one another. The king's decisions became more thoughtful, as he had learned to listen and reflect before acting. He no longer rushed into decisions, but instead approached them with maturity and calmness. During meetings, when an issue needed discussion, the king often encouraged everyone to remain silent for a few minutes first to think. "We don't need to speak immediately. Take some time to listen to yourself and those around you."